St. George Speaks. I am Roy Morris, Director of Citizen Engagement in the Prime Minister's Office. And on the platform, we have the two MPs for St. George North and St. George South. And a constituent I'm told for St. George, which one? St. George, St. George North. Um, Deputy Prime Minister and Prime Minister. So we're not going to go into a whole lot of discussion before we get started. So I'll turn over and let Prime Minister introduce, and then we'll go from there. Prime Minister?
Good evening. Thank you very much, Roy. Good evening to everyone. I can't hear you. Oh, I thought St. George missing a voice. Those who are at the back may want to come forward, and we're going to try to start and ask people to be concise. I received a wind advisory from the Met Office this evening, and therefore I know that we may get some weather, and I want to make sure that we get things done tightly up front rather than holding people out, so that everybody can go back. And I know that the breeze is coming through here sweetly, but I think it's a little more than usual too. So we need to be on guard. We hope that nothing happens, but in the event that it does, I want to get us in and out safely and people back to their homes. Who's first tonight? Thank you. I think that you all have numbers, and most of the people who are usually in the line will sit in the middle. So you come forward though. But all who are down to speak, we know the system of registering at the back, and that we have up front in this middle lane where Tony is. Who else is down to speak tonight? Oh, we can finish early. You come there. You come. Let's start. This is a in and out, obviously. Thank you.
Well, let's do it fast because we have bad weather coming. Good night. Good night, Madam PM and panel. My name is Alison Wiltshire. I am from Alison Wiltshire. I'm from Constance St. George, St. George North. I have a long issue with NHC, the National Housing Corporation. I have purchased my home in 2017, and I have been having some issues with my home, which with the roof, where when we were moving in, they had a lot of issues going on with the homes. As we all know, it was also from Clico time.
Okay, so let me tell you, Ms. Wilshire, since we started this, I have a little rule that I don't require anybody to put the business out to this meeting or to the world.
Right, so,
and therefore, what I want you to do is come to Mr. Morris here at the side, and he will ensure before we leave here tonight, who is here from National Housing, Minister? Where is he? Please. So both he and Mr. Morris will see you right away and report back to both the minister and myself before we leave here to see if there's any further intervention needed at our level or whether it can be handled at the level of the NHC and also Mr. Morris. Is that fair?
Yes, please.
What else you have to tell us tonight?
That is so far so good, but we also have a little something we want to say from the Constant community. Where Olivia?
No problem, you come.
Come. Buddy, come.
You're looking for company on this one?
Yes.
Yes, madam.
Good evening.
What's your name?
Olivia Arthur.
Olivia Arthur.
Yes.
And you're the backative today.
I guess.
Go ahead. You're
Good
Constance and George too.
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
We are asking for consideration to be given for speed humps in the First Avenue. That's the first as you enter the development.
This is the Clico development.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the First Avenue, we're asking for consideration for some speed humps there.
Only the First Avenue, or there are other roads?
There are other roads, but I think if we place them in the First Avenue, it would have people understand to slow down.
Okay, so let's agree that MTW will do the assessment and they'll advise whether it's the First Avenue or not, alone or more. Is that fair?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and
Thank
that's
you.
it?
Yes, that's it for now.
That's very simple. Thank you. Who's next? This breeze getting up in truth. Who's next? Mr. Clark, who are you?
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I want to everybody.
Name and address.
Carolyn Corbin, a.k.a. Tony from Newbury St. George North Constituency. Good evening to Prime Minister Motley, Deputy Prime Minister, best MP in the building, Tony Moore, Dale, and Dwight. First of all, let me congratulate Ms. Moore on behalf of St. George North for your daughter for doing so well today and the common entrance results. My topic this evening, I am a cancer survivor, and I'm a part of a group called the Victorious Warriors. And we're having some challenges at QEH in terms of CT scans and different things, and the long wait you got to get before you can get an appointment, and then when you get an appointment, the long wait before you get back results. So I have, like I said, I'm a part of a group, and they're complaining all the time. Some of them ask me, when you see Miss Marley, please tell she we need some help. So I guess if they're listening now, for all of us as a part of the group, that we want, there's only one CT scan as far as they know at the hospital working. And the lady has said to me, it has to service the entire island, the polyclinics, the outpatients, everything. So it's very hard back on most of the cancer patients and other persons that are sick that need to have that scan done. So we want to know how soon that we can get those equipments up, and the long wait, how soon they can stop, so that we won't have to wait that long. Because sometimes got to wait like over a year, sometimes 2 years before you get back your results. Before you get an appointment and then before you get back.
That's not acceptable. So look, tomorrow I have a meeting with the QEH. I will raise the matter. Is there anyone here from the QEH this evening? Mr. Chairman, Mr. Acting Chairman, come forward, please. 'Cause I am not going to thank you, but I don't like what I'm hearing, so please speak.
I forget I would give a call.
Good night, Madam Prime Minister and the head table. In relation
Good night, sir.
In relation to the complaints made by Ms. Corbin, I think the challenge is, as you said, the limited number of CTs. But in relation to cancer survivors and our cancer treatment, it's really cobalt treatment that we have. And we, as you're aware, Madam Prime Minister, we are acquiring a linear accelerator.
Not acquired. You've already paid the money and sent off the money, so the tent should have acquired, but I'm waiting for it to come. Not true?
Well,
Not
yes,
true?
yes, Madam Prime Minister,
Okay.
we have paid.
Unless somebody has misled me.
No, Madam Prime Minister, you would not be misled by the QEH management. Yeah. So, Madam Prime Minister, as I said, the challenge really is to transition from the cobalt treatment to the linear accelerator. In the meantime, Madam Prime Minister, we are sending patients overseas who require treatment. But in relation to the long delay.
Let's pause first, because there are a number of different issues being raised.
Yeah.
And I thank you for updating the public about the transitioning from the cobalt treatment to the linear accelerator. I believe that those funds would have gone off in the month of April. Am I correct or wrong?
Yes, Madam Prime Minister.
And they indicated to you all that it's about a 6-month period?
Yes, Madam. Yes.
So, and we're now at the end of June, so we have about another 3 months before it is delivered, correct?
Yes, Madam Prime Minister. We are hoping to operationalize by the 25th of November, Prime Minister.
Okay, and I was about to make the point that in addition to it arriving here, you also have works to do, physical works to do for it to be able to function, correct?
Yes, Prime Minister. Civil Works, we have already engaged the contractor and they're scoping.
Right. So before the end of November, we should have that facility open to all Barbadians, which will be the first time the country will have a linear accelerator, correct?
Yes, Prime Minister.
Okay. The issue with respect to the timelines for the waiting for appointments as well as for the results, I heard Ms. Corbin say a year to 2, and I refuse to believe that that's the case. So that means to me, that sounds more like somebody lose the file or forget, because they can't wait 2 years to get a result read.
Yeah, not with a CT scan, Prime Minister. It wouldn't take that long. And even if we outsource the CT scan, well, within a week it should be back, maximum. So I'm not understanding why. But I'll have that investigated.
And that's the point. So I believe her entirely that somebody may have experienced that or told her that, but I'd like you to investigate it for me to see what is the timeline that the average person takes to get back their results with respect to the CT scans. With respect to the other equipment, we have just about concluded the financing for the equipment, a whole suite of equipment, correct?
Yes, Prime
The
Minister.
first phase being $65 million and the
$1 million.
second phase being another 65 or
million.
70 million, I can't remember offhand. So that we're hoping to get the first set of financing done now and the second set of financing done by September or so, correct?
Yes, Prime Minister.
And that will facilitate the additional pieces of equipment that we need. So hopefully, Ms. Corbin, that will assist, but the timelines that you gave don't seem realistic, so I want that investigated. Yeah, even if there is, the point is once you've done the scan, it can't take a year or 2 to read it. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So it would have to be that somebody misplaced something. You understand? So I could understand you taking too long to get the appointment, but once they do it, they can't take that length of time to read it. All right? Mr. Whitehall, not true? So
It shouldn't take that long, Prime Minister. We have radio.
I don't operate in my part of the world on shoulda and coulda. You understand? So I need to know.
But like I
need
said,
to know precision.
Right, so we capture numbers, Prime Minister, so I should
You-
be able to capture the
and-
rate
and
at
give
which
me a
these are done
report.
and report that.
Yeah,
Thank you,
and
Prime Minister.
we will be able to assure the country that we don't take that long with respect to being able to give people results. I also know that we also gave you money specifically outside of this equipment money, not just for the linear accelerator, but for a whole set of laboratory equipment to be able to facilitate quicker results and communication for lab results, particularly for people in A&E, correct?
Yes, Prime Minister.
Do
We
you,
received
and
that money.
can you confirm whether the equipment orders have been made, or you'll have to check?
I spoke to Dr. Ford last Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and he was to get back to me on where himself and procurement are in relation to those orders.
Well, I would suspect it's more procurement who can tell you, because they're the one placing the order. So I'd like you to check on that and let us know. I have a meeting tomorrow, so I'd like to know by then, thank you, when that equipment was ordered and when is it coming in, because we specifically took the time at the end of the last fiscal year before the end of March to give you this money separately, to pull out the linear accelerator and to pull out the lab equipment, while then waiting for the financing for the other $130 million, $135 million, can't remember the number, with respect to the other
The
equipment.
capital works.
Yeah, the other, well, not capital works, the other pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
Major pieces of equipment. Okay?
Yes,
Has
sir.
the A&E finished?
Yes, the NE has been completed, Prime Minister.
So has
Right.
there been a transition yet, or you're now transitioning?
We are transition, Prime Minister. The entire space is being utilized.
So you're now finishing up that?
Yeah, that is completed. and-
It's completed?
Mhm, It's completed.
Oh,
yes,
very
Prime
good.
Minister.
So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Good night, Ms. Muckley. Good night, member. My name is Rita Sumrow. I would like to address myself. I live in St. George now, but moved from the United States. I'm a qualified nurse for 40 years in the United States, as well as a counselor.
Where do you live, ma'am? In St. George?
St. George.
Which part?
Cottage. I'm here since last year, and me and my other half, we were getting into the agriculture department to start raising chicken and pigs. But I went to the Grey Hall about land and get red tape. Didn't hear back from them. They gave us an email. There's no response. And I met with Mr. Humphrey about counseling, volunteer counseling children in Department of Government schools and children abuse centers and all of that. And I haven't heard back from them.
So basically your concern is the lack of response of both the Ministry of Agriculture and also the Ministry of People Empowerment.
Yes, Prime Minister.
Okay, who's here from Agriculture, please? Mr. Andwele, come forward and you can link with her and explain why we haven't responded. And also, who is here from People Empowerment? Not good. Mr. Morris, see who's coming from People Empowerment. Please, either the minister or there's some officials coming at the back now. I don't know if any of them are there. Anything else, Ms. Samaru?
That's my concern.
Okay, well, hopefully we can correct both. I apologize to you for the lack of responsiveness of the two ministries, and I will ask Mr. Morris, Roy, that you please liaise with both ministries and indicate the lack of responsiveness and that we'd wish to have it corrected. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Agriculture is right here, so you can go one side and meet with Mr. Andwele. Right. Thank you. I give the opportunity to both MPs to speak for 5 minutes each, and then we will see if there's anyone else before wrapping up and letting people deal with the weather situation with the wind advisory. Thank you.
I was saying age before beauty. So I was going to let the MP for St. George South go first. But first of all, good night to everyone. And I believe that this opportunity is being provided to us mainly to allow you an opportunity further to see if there's anything that we might say that might trigger some kind of response from you. Since last St. George Speaks, which is now almost 13 months ago, we have been tracking a number of the concerns that were flagged. And one of the things when we have to provide an update very often is that people only see that things are done when you actually have a result. It is often very difficult for people to align with the fact that progress does not only mean outcome, but it's a number of steps in between along the way. We had a number of issues that were raised on the last occasion, and I'm very pleased to report that in the main part, I would say for about 75% to 80% of the issues that were raised in St. George North, we have been able to make good progress on it, namely the housing situation in Erie Hill. There were some reports for MTW that are actively under consideration there in terms of the community roads and so on that were raised. Requests for street light just up in Cottage and so on. And we are actively pursuing a number of those. What I think that those of you who might be here from St. George North can consider raising, now that we have an audience not only with the Prime Minister, my colleague from the South, but other representatives of ministries, are those specific issues that you have been coming to the constituency office with on Thursdays. One of the recurring problems that we have heard raised relates to the bus system. And this will be a question or concern for the Deputy Prime Minister, who's the minister responsible, but more specifically for her representatives who might be in the audience. There were 2 bus lines introduced, one going through Market Hill, up Bridgecourt, the other one through Constant, from Dash Valley through Constant. Both services, we keep getting complaints, at least one complaint coming to the office per month from people saying how frustrated they are that the buses are no longer running or that the buses are not running properly. This is the Dash Valley bus that all during the election we were complimenting the Transport Board for how quiet the buses were passing through, that we weren't even hearing them. But the residents are not hearing them now because they're not coming apparently. And then the Flat Rock bus that's supposed to be going up Bridgecourt. That bus, that's the one more recently over the last 4 months that we have been hearing that the service is inadequate. But that's on the, maybe on the downside. On the upside, I think that the main road outside where we are is one of the major pluses that the residents of St. George North have found favor with as they eagerly anticipate a number of other works that have been committed, namely the one at Sweet Vale and the Sweet Bottom Road. My campaign manager in the by-election was with me when he knows that was committed years before and recommitted again. And we eagerly anticipate that, as well as a number of other community roads. But generally speaking, I would be presumptuous enough to say that in St. George North, I think that we are holding our own. There are a number of things that we would always see that can be done better, but I would wish to express a special thanks to the constituency for being as patient with the government as they have been, understanding that there are a number of competing priorities, and I think that they're seeing good responses to coming from the constituency office. At the last branch meeting, I had to give special kudos to my assistant, Paul Bentham, for the outstanding work, the tremendous work that he's doing in responding to the constituency, assisting and responding to the constituency in ways that we can't really report on here. But I know that a number of individual families are seeing the benefit of the introduction of that resource to the office in St. George North. I won't say anything more at this time, unless I'm challenged, of course.
Good night, all. Thank you, colleague Tony. Let me say a special welcome to Mr. Glenn Clark. I don't think most of you see him in the midst, but he's here. Welcome, Glenn. What I'll do, I'll just take up from where MP Moore left off with respect to the glebe land, the glebe tenantry land. Last time we were at St. George Secondary School, we had a number of challenges with respect to um, lots not being surveyed, number of letters not issued by the diocesan trustees. And I can proudly report on behalf of MP Moore that we now have 74 conveyances in progress out of 110. So for the land at the glebe tenantry land. So we've made significant progress with respect to ownership, and we know how this government feels about ownership. The Prime Minister always say, rent money is dead money, and when you can give someone title and ownership to land, they can leverage that for education for their children, to own another property, and they can utilize it as an asset for several things. So we have made significant progress, and I would want to thank National Housing Corporation as well as the Ministry of Housing, the Permanent Secretary, Nikki Smith, and the other officers for sticking to the task and reporting progress during the last year. 110 out of, no, we have 74 out of 110 that have been surveyed. While we are in the north and I can see some lovely roads, I do want to thank the Deputy Prime Minister.
Sorry, you said had been surveyed as opposed to conveyed.
No, conveyed.
Conveyed. Okay.
Conveyed, sorry. 74 conveyed.
Okay, and you expect the other 36 to be done within what time frame?
Certainly within the next 3 to 6 months. This year, Prime Minister. We are not going past this year. Yeah, by the end of this year.
Thank you, and thank the officers for me too, please. This is too important. The government has committed itself last month in St. John. We also spoke about the ones at Welch and the ones by Codrington. So I would like to get a progress report too. Not tonight, but at some point on those, please.
Welch is definitely a cabinet paper for Thursday. So you'll see the progress there as well. We're in St. George North, and I drove from Huddersfield, turning straight here, and drove on lovely road. And I want to thank the Deputy Prime Minister and her team. Very often we are criticized as a government for road works, lack of road works. But I have never seen a government more active than this government in terms of fixing roads and beautifying Barbados. And I want to publicly thank the Deputy Prime Minister and the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister, you know the type of person the Prime Minister is. She is a hard taskmaster, justifiably so, and we have to produce. So I want to thank the DPM.
Tell a man different than other Bajan mother.
But while I can see progress in both north and south, on Friday, again, let me thank the Deputy Prime Minister. We did a tour in the south, and I heard MP Moore mention the short roads, and indeed we recognize the road, and I can see persons here from Workman in Newbury. We recognize some roads coming from Workman into Jericho and also Newbury. And the Deputy Prime Minister has assured me that within the next 6 months, she would have those roads addressed. We can't do all the roads this year, but I am pleased with the progress. One major challenge, and I see BWA, I have been doing some town hall meetings monthly. I did a town hall meeting a few weeks in Workman, and one of the major challenges coming from Fairview and Workman and Jericho is water. Water being off from 6:30 in the morning to midday. So that's a long period for persons without water. I know someone was going to raise it tonight, but I preempt them and I raised it because they mentioned that.
No, I think Water Authority should be here. Yeah. And they sent me a report this morning, so I'm going to ask them to speak and update the parish and by extension the country on it when you finish.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. But generally, we are working as a team, and I'm going around from village to village and meeting with the residents and tracking most of the issues and progress as well. And I would say, even though we're not 100% out of the woods, We are seeing progress with respect to infrastructure, sporting infrastructure. We are seeing progress with respect to road infrastructure. We are also seeing progress with respect to community involvement. We came here this afternoon, and the amount of cars that I saw, I thought this place would have been packed. But when I looked to my left, I saw an exercise program with at least 50 women. And I want to say to you, MP Moore, this is really good community, building community spirit, and also taking care of your health. Your health is your wealth. I would stop here. All to say, I would carry on my work in St. George South with respect to community town hall meetings. The next one will be in Greens, and I intend to bring back the issues to my colleagues, and we intend to address them one by one. I want to thank you all for coming, and that's it from me for now.
Thank you very much, Dwight. We have some other speakers now, or we can take Water Authority first, and then we'll take the other speakers. Water Authority.
Good evening, Prime Minister. Andrew Lane, Barbados Water Authority. Right.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Right, so we're going to have to carry out some further investigations into that DMA, which we consider Green's DMA.
When you start using letters, remember that we're not in a government meeting, please. So speak plainly for everybody to understand.
Right, so we're going to carry out some further investigations into that distribution system to determine if there are further leaks, because it's known for leaks in that along the St. Jude's area and the Hope Road, which impacts the entire distribution system. So we have to carry out further investigations in non-revenue water to do some leak detection as well. Pumping is good so far, but once there is a leak in the distribution system, it affects the higher elevation. So we will look into it, Prime Minister.
Anything else generally across, because you had problems a couple months ago in St. George, period. Mr. Lane, don't go too far, or somebody else can answer. With respect to the silting and the different other issues in St. George and St. John.
Right. Well, there is an ongoing project right now at Pool Plantation to help deal with a filtration system. This will help in the future when there's heavy rainfall to stop the discoloration problem getting into the distribution system. So that's currently ongoing, and that is...
When do you expect that to finish, sir?
I believe the note I would have seen within a year's time, Prime Minister.
And therefore, you expect to tell them that and just finish so, or are you going to explain to them why it would take so long? Because, no, for you and me, who are not affected immediately, that may seem reasonable, but for somebody who has to wait that long, it's not reasonable. So people need to understand who is going to be affected, why they're going to be affected, how it is going to be dealt with. In the same way that we had to do it with the AG's constituents in Horse Hill and all other parts of St. Joseph that were affected. It took us about a year and a half, AG, to deal with it. But once you explain to people what you're doing and keep them updated, they will understand, they appreciate, and at least they know what they're working with and what we're working towards. Because at the end of the day, the pipes were not laid by us. The pipes were laid almost 100 years or more ago, depending on what part of Barbados is between 100 and 160 years. So we just need to explain, and you have that expertise. I'm not an engineer, so I don't want to try.
Right. So what we're trying to do is to stop the siltation from getting into the well at Bomiston, so that when we pump, the turbidity or the particulate matter, which will cause the water to be discolored, will be reduced significantly. And it is primarily during heavy rainfall events that this problem happens. So once this filtration system is put into place, that will be a thing of the past.
Putting a filtration system in place is 4 words, you said, but it's 1 year to do. So break it down and explain why it would take a year.
Prime Minister, I'm not part of that project unit.
So who is from there? Is anyone from BWA here? Then BWA needs to make sure they knew that we were dealing with St. George this evening, and therefore they ought to have the persons here who can speak to the problem, which we had a press conference about earlier this year, for the people of St. George and St. John, not true?
That is true.
So perhaps you might want to take a brief and come back before the meeting is over. Thank
Yes,
you,
Prime
sir.
Minister.
Or ask whoever can come, but they can give you the brief and you can more than do it. So we'll pause and resume the line of concerns. Who's next? Who's next? Come forward. Good night, sir.
Mr. Prime Minister, my name is Charles Reed. I'm from Bridge Court in St. George. And I'm raising the issue of the kiosk earmarked for Market Hill for the small businessmen.
What's the last name again?
Reed, R-E-I-D.
Go ahead.
Right, so I just wanted to know at least how soon the project will be starting, if it will be starting.
All right. Mr. Reed, since 2020, that was one of the things that you raised with us.
Yes, sir.
And it was committed to you under my colleague who is now at Ministry of Housing, because at the time it was his ministry and we identified the area just next to results
Yes.
in that general area, which is NHC land, where we anticipated that we could be erecting some kiosks. Since that time, the vending bill was passed, and that area was put forward, has been put forward as one of the 2 areas in St. George North where vending zones can be established. Unfortunately, the minister responsible, who is Senator Lisa Cummins, is not here tonight to say specifically where progress has been made, but I can guarantee you that my office has reached out as recently, I am sure about within the last 6 months, but I can verify when, and she had responded to indicate that that project is well on the way, not only for St. George North. It had slowed, but they're looking to make good on where MPs had identified areas within their constituencies that vending zones can go. And we are eagerly hoping that in Market Hill, and the other one had been identified for us. We had identified the Glebe and Salters. I don't know where the second one will go, but that we can make good on that commitment. So as soon, I hope that she and her ministry colleagues can hear that it was raised at St. George North again, because we have a shoe business, bike business, we have people selling vegetables and so on, and we think, especially with a road so smooth, the development with the gas station and so on, I think that the area is prime for expansion, and it would be, the supermarket has already been their results, and I think that we will look forward very eagerly to seeing that in short order. The Prime Minister doesn't like dealing with terms like short order and so on, so I'm sure that she will get clarification for us through her colleagues that we can pass on to you.
Thank you. I can give you no, because as Minister of Finance, I've indicated that the government has to proceed with these vending zones as a matter of urgency. I saw, I can stop saying things because they're coming through too often. I said that I feared that somebody would either be badly hurt or would lose their life as a result of people buying on the road. About a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I saw a gentleman whose foot was badly broken, and who complained that it happened because he was trying to buy coconut water on the road. The project at Redmond's Village, I think, has started. The designs for the one at Warren's are being done. There was a temporary set of arrangements put in place at Newton, which, as you know, will have to be completed, but we felt it was too urgent to get them off of the highway because people come down at speed on that highway. And in fact, I was horrified to learn that in spite of that, people were still going in the middle of the road and running across the road with bottles, putting their lives at risk. But even if you wanted to put your life at risk, you're putting somebody else's life at risk too, who may be driving and who may be the subject of somebody braking suddenly. So that these things are serious. I have mentioned it. I've also mentioned to the police that we need to keep better order. This is not a government who wants to stop people from earning money from vending. In fact, it's the opposite. Right. We want people to earn. But what we said is that while we have decriminalized, in other words, you can't get a criminal conviction for selling illegally as you used to for 4 centuries almost, that we, however, require order. Because if you don't have order, where you got? Chaos. Chaos. You understand, Mr. Reed? So I'm glad you're helping me to break down this point for people. And what, therefore, the government is doing is prioritizing spending to make sure that we can have order. We did it with Barvin, and as you know, those vendors are on the Spring Garden, and in fact, there has to be an upgrade now to those facilities down there. We've done it with those areas that I've just spoken about. Sandy reminded me also Top Rock, and then the other one there by Dighton Griffith School. There are going to be other smaller things done. I know in Bushall Yard Gap, Ministry of Environment is part of their other program, Building Blocks, I think is what you called it originally, and Youth Affairs. Look at Adrian because I know he was the one when he was there who pushed it. But those will be the smaller versions of the vending zones. Okay. And we are deeply conscious of the urgency of getting as many of them done over the course of the next year to 18 months. So I apologize for the length of time, but the planning arrangements in some instances have taken longer than we would have anticipated. The one that's going to be most complex is the one by Warren's, but I think we have a solution that, because I did not want to move the men from the area of predominant activity and traffic, because we could easily have put them back down the highway towards Huddersfield turning on the lay-by, and I've said no, keep the men where the traffic is. But what we've had to do now is to redesign and to be able to build a slip lane off the highway that will accommodate them. And Sandy at the right time will, once the designs, we have a pictorial design, but once the actual drawings and designs are done by the engineers, she's going to be in a position to allow us to meet with the men and to meet with the public and let the public know what we're doing there now. You see the wind coming, getting up now. So thank you, my brother.
All right. Congratulations, man. A good job.
I just want to confirm, too, that the areas were first submitted in March 2022 and resubmitted again in February this year. And in order of priority, Market Hill, Glebe installs on the outside of the market, and Salters.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ms.
Who's next?
Good evening. My name is Alan Knight. Right. Hi. My name is Alan Knight. Yeah. Right. Newbury, St. George. St. George. Right. Good evening to the panel, Madam Prime Minister. I just want to congratulate you on a good job, a wonderful job that the current administration has been doing. Right. And yeah, but the good job, like, it stopped short in Newbury. The section that I at, which is with my minister, which is Mr. Sutherland, right? Newbury has been is in the same state that it was since Glenn Clark left, right? And I mean, that's unfortunate in terms of we got a hard court that needed painting. We wrote a letter to the Sports Council that since 2015. My minister was the minister.
But I
of
don't say
sports.
so because Glenn was the MP in 2015.
but we wrote the letter in 2015, right? But Newbury, we gonna get some action in Newbury for sure. I mean that we can't.
What speak specifically?
We got the hard court that needs to be painted. Well, we painted it recently. The fellas got together and painted it, right? But we got the lights that, I mean...
You know, that's the kind of thing you're supposed to do.
Right, and we ain't got a problem.
I mind that. So tell me something that you can't lift, but I can lift.
Right. We ain't got a problem with doing. We want some assistance. You know what I mean? If you can get together, the fellas and get together and do it. Ain't no problem with that. We got the lights. We can't do the lights ourselves.
I understand.
You know?
That one we can take care of.
Right. As you were saying earlier about, you know, the accident rating that happened, we was explaining earlier. We got going up the road, but if you go into Cottage, you got a new school that was built up there. And the road, the sidewalk is actually in the road. They had actually reduced the road to a bottleneck. That is, I can't remember the name of the school that's going Cottage, that's going towards Cottage, towards St. Jude's. I think it's...
Those Brethren School?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, MTW will look at it.
Right, right. Right. All right. We got some so is that and I got you know the issue with the roads, you know the roads we got to wait on that, which ain't a problem. All right, but I definitely need to see my minister in the area. I don't see him.
You getting confused between ministers and MPs.
My MP, sorry.
You understand?
My MP.
But your MP, you don't belong to the area either because you're MP ain't a man.
No. My MP is Dwight Sutherland.
But all that happened is that he understands that all of Newbury really need to be taken care of in the north. And the same way that there are all other parts that, look, the part of the difficulty where you got a constituency that is split in the middle of a community, I take care of both sides of Bushall.
Well,
You understand?
I know that.
So that there's certain things that and I take care of both sides of Bourne's Village too. But in fairness, I got 80% of Bourne's Village and you got 20%. So there's some of those anomalies like that. So when you see one, you see all. You remember D'Artagnan? 3 Musketeers, one for all and all for one? Well, it was one for all and all for one except one.
Yeah, but I really want Newbury to be get some word. And we got a community center that is inactive because there's nothing going on at this community center.
Okay, so let me make you a deal in front of everybody.
Right.
Because I've committed to Sergeant's Village with Junior Alsop and Carlos Braffett, and let me congratulate Carlos Braffett for an excellent job done in commentating during the World Cup. He has carried the Barbados flag all over the world, and the truth is that it is clear that while we have lost Tony Cozier, that we have the potential for someone to rise and to walk in those shoes again. And of course, we miss Donna Simmons, who was also no longer commentating, and who the South African commentator told me on Friday night that Donna Simmons was her inspiration to get into cricket commentating. So sometimes we don't know how far our voices go. But to come back to the point, I've agreed that Sergeant's Village, the community center that is there, which has been closed for some time too, that we're going to have a pilot in community enfranchisement for some of these community centers. I'm more than happy to add 2 more to it. And if Newbury, is Newbury right?
Yes.
Can be one, we can look at that too. Is Charles here? Charles? So Sergeant's Village, Newbury, and we add a 3rd one as well. And what we're basically doing is, look, we're going to do up a lease that will enter an arrangement with the community group. Small things, washers for sinks, a toilet need replacing, small things around the place, the debushing to keep the place round tidy, you control. Big things like roofs and anything that is a major fix, the government will control the repairs of it. You, however, will keep the keys and manage access to the place so that there is genuine community enfranchisement and genuine community access for the community when they need it. And we're going to try this, and if it works out well, Glenn, you will remember that we talked about this under Owen sometime, and Hammy was to bring back the paper. We never got it before the elections again. So we want to be able to have the community enfranchisement of centers where the community groups literally are the ones who help us manage the process. I also feel strongly, you see these schools, and this is a wonderful forecourt here in terms of this design of this particular school. But I genuinely feel that, and Adrian, I need you to talk to them maybe a little bit about the community landscaping, the schools landscaping projects, because we want to be able to get the communities more involved in terms of, look at these fences here. This fence could break any time. But I never seen anybody run through a bougainvillea fence yet. A bougainvillea hedge. I never seen anybody run through a pittosporum hedge yet when it thick. So that we need to be able to ensure what we can plant also to protect and lengthen the life of the fences, but at the same time also make the place more beautiful by having the landscaping that the kids can benefit from and that the people around. Part of the difficulty is also that when school goes on Christmas, Easter, and summer holidays, then people aren't there to help maintain the same way. So we want the people in the community to work with the schools to make sure that we have ownership of schools and community centers across Barbados by the community. And I go further, that eventually we want to be able to make sure that small jobs can be done by the people who live in the community. Because if at the end of the day a fella help fix up this or paint this, what are you going to do when somebody try to disrespect it or vandalize it? The people in the community say, "Wait, you foolish? You know how much work we do to do ABC?" So that's where we want to go. And I hope, therefore, that your presence here and the others in Newbury can help us treat to you as one of the pilots in going forward.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You want to speak quickly?
Good night, everyone, Prime Minister, colleagues, all. The Prime Minister already said it in her sedulous presentation just now. There's not much for me to add, but just to say that I believe that in order for us to balance the humors of a country, we must equally look at not only the development of buildings, but the beautification. And we want to start with the schools, the institution where we can really look at building out our young people in a holistic way. And to say that beauty is really in the eye of the beholder. And we believe that the only way that we can have our young people balanced is to have beautiful surroundings, not only for security, but to allow the trees to do all those beautiful things that we know trees can do in terms of purifying the air, adding a sense of appreciation, aesthetics, the water, removing harmful chemicals from the environment, the soils, whatnot. We started a project with the Ministry of Education to ensure that the schools around the country, that they have not only the protection, as the Prime Minister said, with the bougainvillea and the pittosporum, but of course, having the gardens around the schools done so that we can have that beauty and not only speak the beauty, but allow, for instance, us to extend those agricultural projects in the school because we believe in food security as well. And we know full well that the young people, they have the expenditure that me and the Prime Minister certainly don't have, and we are allowing them to be part of this build-out process where they work with the community groups. Obviously, we would have the scope of works by those persons who are landscape architects to ensure that there is a professional touch to what we are doing. We are going to invite community landscape artists to come on board and those persons who have a landscape business to provide us with the trees and that wherewithal so we can build out the gardens, on the fences and the hedges around the schools. So it's a holistic project, and then we are going to train the same students to be part of the maintenance of these same gardens and these projects. So as I said, it's a holistic project. We have started it with the Ministry of Education. You will have seen in 23 primary schools thus far the start of these projects, where you see the Petersporin and the Bocavilla on the outside. And we are going to move across 107, all the schools, primary and secondary, to ensure that we do that which we're supposed
Thank
to do.
you.
In terms.
I want to reinforce the point that the bougainvillea will be on the outside of the fence so that nobody can run into the school, and the pittosporum or any other similar thick hedge without prickles will be on the inside, so that if the children run into the hedge trying to look for a ball or whatever, that they don't get injured. But I really do believe that, look, we can do better. When you see a fence alone, you think institution. When you see landscaping, you think homeliness, beauty, and reflection, and a space for you to be able to reinvigorate. Okay? So, and I notice that Minister of Education is here too, so she is happy that you are speaking as well on this matter.
Yeah. But Prime Minister,
you're all working together on it.
Working together. But the reality is that we can't have the most idyllic song, Beautiful Barbados, by an iconic group, and don't have a beautiful country starting in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Tony, Dwight, y'all want to speak?
Okay, good night again. Just a comment on the Suki King sporting facility is in Newbury, and I am one who strongly believe that that facility, it needs work, a lot of work, and I'm asking that we look at it, come together as a group, Ministry of Sports and also the community at Mr. Knight, because the Knight family is a very prominent family in Newbury. So we need you to help us make Suki King facility one of the best facilities, because you wouldn't get, from my knowledge of sports, when you have poor facilities, residents stay home. They don't want to come out to play, they don't want to do anything. And that facility is one that we really need to fix up. And I know once we fix that up, like we have done at St. George, at the Glebe, then Newbury will return to the glory days. Newbury once had one of the most prominent netball teams in St. George. And now we've seen the shift to Church Bottom and also to Allerton. So once we get that going, then I strongly believe that community involvement and community activity will return to Newbury. In addition, Mr. Knight, before you came, we mentioned the road. We traveled through there last week, Friday, DPM and we know that that road is in dire need of repair. So I am hoping, like how we have gone into Newbury and dealt with most of the Hurricane Elsa houses, with the exception of one. Miss Marsh is here, and I didn't want to get into, the name calling, but I can tell you that once we get that road infrastructure and the sporting infrastructure back to a respectable level, I think we'll see some more activities in Newbury.
All right, I'm still going to hand back to you, though, because it seems as though this is it now. Any word from me on the water? Any further word? So just before we wrap up, I think that's it for the night, based on what Roy has just told me. Yeah, the ones who are personal are being dealt with one-on-one. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Prime Minister. The project was completed April this year. So,
project?
For the filtration system, the Gabions at Pool.
Was completed. That's
April.
what I thought. So when are you talking about a year?
The information came to me late today. So
Let's put it this way. The public excuses you for the fact that this is not your area of specialty of the Water Authority.
Yes.
And we thank you for being an effective communicator and letting us know that the worst of it is behind us. I do believe that there's some small things still to do with Bowmanston, but we will deal with that on another occasion. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you all. Like I said, this government is actively working on all fronts, whether it is infrastructure, sporting facilities. We intend to make St. George one of the best parishes in Barbados, if not the best parish in Barbados. Now, the reality is I have a lot of my colleagues here from St. Joseph and St. Michael, so I have to be careful that I don't get a little jab. But having said that, though, we as a government recognize we can't do everything in a day. But the progress that I've seen in St. George, I'm pleased. We will not rest on our laurels. We'll not sit back. We'll keep pushing for infrastructure. We'll keep pushing for sporting facilities, community involvement. Because I strongly believe that most of the challenges that we are faced with in communities can be solved not only through sports, but youth groups find a place for the idle minds and the idle hands to get involved in some level of sporting, cultural. We just formed a cultural group in Ellerton and in Greens where 50 young men and women, they perform all across the country at various crop over events, Whole Town Festival. They even perform at the last Gold Cup. And that is what we need in all communities, not just in St. George. We need to engage the young minds across Barbados. And that will help our Attorney General address some of the challenges with crime. So I am one who strongly believes that St. George, both North and South, is active as it relates to community involvement, and we can only get better. Thank you all for coming out, and I'll be traveling across the length and breadth again of St. George, and I will ask my colleague to join me. We're doing a number of town hall meetings. We just did one at Workman's Primary School. We did one at Ellerton, and I'm going to Greens in the month of July, where I will have another town hall meeting. And I will cover all 11 boxes this year with town hall meetings and then bring issues back to the Prime Minister and my colleagues so we can get more progress in this lovely community, the breadbasket of the country, St. George. I thank you.
Thanks, Dwight. And I won't belabor the issue except to say to the constituents of St. George North, you don't get things done by not highlighting the things that you're concerned with that need to be done. And I start there by thanking those of you who make it a point to ensure that we are aware of the issues concerning you. Very often people stay in a corner and bicker and complain, but they don't come forward to let you know what the problem is. They assume that you can read minds and so on. So I really want to express appreciation for those members of the constituency across all boxes who make it a point to have us understand what their concerns are, and as best we can, we will continue to address those. If the office cannot give ready answers, you are aware by now that we seek out the responses that will help you, and we will continue to do so. I don't take the low numbers of people coming forward with as an indication that all is well, but I will assure you and commit to you that we will continue to give of our utmost to ensure that St. George as a whole continues to grow from strength to strength. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister Humphrey, I think you wanted to respond on a matter that was raised earlier where the ministry hasn't responded back to Ms. Samaru with an offer to volunteer counseling, and I'm sure you will use the opportunity to get more volunteers. Go right ahead, sir.
All right, good evening, everybody. First of all, let me apologize for the absence of the person from the ministry. She messaged to say she was unwell, but she should have been here, but she's not feeling well, so these things happen. In relation to the question on volunteering, no, we welcome volunteers. In fact, we had put an ad out in the paper to encourage volunteers. And normally when someone approached me to volunteer, I recommend them to the ministry or I refer them to the ministry. In a case where somebody is specifically, however, asking to volunteer to counsel abused children, we do not do that. For obvious reasons. A child who has been abused is treated completely different from a family who might be in need or a child who is at risk. So in those circumstances, the Child Care Board would have to make a much more serious determination, but normally we shelter those children. We're actually encouraging persons, though, to come forward. We did an ad very recently for the One Family program, where there are a number of children who may not have been abused, but who are also in need of counseling. And we would welcome more people to come forward and to support those children. In a larger context, we also welcome persons to come forward and support those families. So if you're in a position to support another family, you know, with a chicken, a couple chickens, anything, a financial support or a mentor, after we screen you, then we want to make families come into contact with these persons. So the ministry is open for business, and of course I apologize on behalf of the ministry. I have the information for Rita Samaru, and we will contact her. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kurt, and I reinforce your call for other people to come forward with the One Family program. We are going to be as strong as we allow ourselves to be, and that means helping one another. That's what made Barbados resilient. That's what will keep us resilient. That is what will keep our families stronger. Santi, I think you wanted to update on a few infrastructural projects.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, PM. Good night to everyone. A little birdie told me that there's a question circulating about the roundabouts at Newbury. Groves. Groves and the Windsor-Brighton roundabout. I know that these roundabouts have been discussed for quite some time. And fortunately, I can say to you tonight that the plans have actually been done in terms of the designs for the Windsor-Brighton. We have had the bill of quantities done, so we've been able to cost it, and we are about to go to tender for those to be done. So I'm hopeful that before the end of this year, we should be in a position to see some construction there. There's a bit of acquisition that has to be done at the junction, and once that is completed, we should be able to start. As it relates to the one at Groves, again, that one came up recently in a meeting. I understand that there are designs that were already done previously. Uncle Glenn is nodding, so that you can tell how long that has been around. And so we're going to move now to the bill of quantity stage and then hopefully be able to go to tender. Yes, I don't think that was budgeted in this financial year, but we will certainly get the costings and be able to move on that as quickly as possible. All right, thanks. So, and the Groves to Sweet Bottom, I'm asked about as well. There are a number of roads that have been moved in terms of reallocated within the CAF program. And so that is one of the roads that we had to shift around. As you know, we did about 3 roads in St. George recently, which I believe are very critical link roads under the Mill and Pave program. But there are still a number of other roads to be done under CAF. I think people need to appreciate that we have, at the moment, 2 main contractors who are able to do a lot of the milling and paving in the country. MTW has its own paving unit, but for a lot of the rehabilitation works that have to take place across the island, we're really relying on 2 main parties. There's another player who's coming into the market shortly, and we're hoping that with that we will be in a position to be able to accelerate a lot of the roadworks program. But with Complant project on board, where we have a lot of works going on in the Scotland district, we're coming to the end of the milling and paving program, and hopefully Prime Minister will be gracious and give us a little bit more money so that we can continue that program. So that all those roads that y'all are mentioning in St. George North and South and across the island, that we should be able to knock off a number of those as well. But again,
I think she meant the Minister of Finance, but the Prime Minister will have a word with the Minister of Finance.
Please do, and I'm sure she will be amenable. But I think generally we're making some progress. I know everybody has their wish list of roads that they would like to see done, but we've spent the last few months really getting designs done. Yeah, we're having to use different methodologies now to help to maintain the roads. Recently, we've been looking at different things, roller compacted concrete. There are a few roads that have been done in the RCC, and we have been exploring different technologies to really tend to, preserve the road infrastructure, because we can't allow it to deteriorate in the way that it has deteriorated over the previous years. So again, I think the progress is being made. We have a lot more to do, as I've said in the last few days, so we're not complacent, we're not resting on our laurels. I think my staff in the ministry know that we are driving this process, and we are trying to just make those assessments so that we can prioritize the roads that really are in the worst condition.
Thank you very much, Santia. I know the Lower State to Charo Bridge Road is one that we had talked about, and that has services to go in, which is why that couldn't be part of the normal mill and pave road. So that will come too with the cooperation of Water Authority and Light and Power and Natural Gas in order to be able to get that one done. So as we say, Rome was not built in a day, but little by little, or as the old Bajans would say, one blow is kill old cow. And when you start to add up, you begin to see the cumulative effort over the last 6 years in spite of everything else that we've been facing. Now, we have two matters, therefore, that will cause me to say get home safely. One is the weather advisory, the wind advisory, and we certainly are seeing higher winds than usual. Hopefully it will stay predominantly offshore, but we need to be conscious that we know what it is to see freak storms and other things come on shore, so let us be careful nevertheless. And secondly, I believe even though we are crying tonight that West Indies are not in there, we as Barbadians have a duty to host the world on Saturday. And as we host the world on Saturday, we have therefore to show them why Barbados has the highest repeat visitor factor in the world. Because people keep coming back and back once they really get to understand and know who we are, because there's a sincerity in our expression for the most part. And therefore, I want us to also recognize Friday, 28th, is Flag Day. What does Flag Day mean? What does Flag Day mean? Ma'am, you started the evening. Come and tell me. You're the cheerleader now. So from constant right back through, Flag Day means rep our colors and rep the Barbados colors. So West Indies may not be at Kensington as a cricket team on Saturday, but West Indies and Barbados will be ever present in making the world welcome to our 166 square miles. And why? We are the first country in the world of this small size to host 3 global sporting events in one of the top 3 sports of the world. The top 3 sports are football, the Olympics, and cricket. Cricket used to be number 3. I'm told it's now number 2. That Barbados could now have 3 global sporting events in cricket is something of which we should be tremendously proud. But pride cometh before a fall if that's all that we have. And therefore, we need to make sure that all who are visiting us, we welcome them. We need to make sure that we keep the place looking scrumptious, not just for them, but for us. And that we need to make sure that this weekend, as we move from Cricket World Cup into Crop Over, is one of which all Barbadians can be proud, those living here and those Barbadians who will be watching on from overseas. Glenn, we want to thank you. I see you are here again, and he tells me he's coming for cricket. But we know that you are an ever-present factor still and feature in St. George, and we want to thank you for your continued presence and engagement. And we look forward, therefore, everyone, to us playing our part and welcoming the world here. We've said for decades, tourism is our business. Let's do what? Let's play our part. So, good night. Get home safely. And I'm not going to place any bets on Afghanistan and Bangladesh, but A comes before B. Thank you.